One of the most time-consuming chores in working with photos and labeling them is the act of typing the same or similar notes time after time. There needed to be a way of creating the notes once and then organizing the notes in such a way that they were easy to locate and click on to add them to photo reports. You can see that on the far right of the screen it has a section specifically for MacroNote. The first two options allow you to fully expand or collapse the list of expanding notes. Although in order to quickly locate a specific note, it is likely best to expand the list more slowly so that you can see all of the headers of the expanding lists. You can see that if I were to immediately expand all, that you would have to scroll up and down to see the headers, which makes it more time consuming to locate the one that you're looking for. The expanding list will go 4 header levels deep, and then a 5th level for notes only. Although you can put a note on any of the levels, it is typically advised not to clutter up this first level. So in the example notes that ship with MacroNote, we can see that the top level header is called roof. The next level is called asphalt, and then the next level contains 4 sublevels called wind, consequential damage, material notes, and hail. So if we open the first sublevel called wind and then click the first note on the list, we can go to the bottom right of the page and see the content of the note prior to dropping it into the description of the photo. In this case, the note is regarding a broken seal strip and reads, "This is a photo of a seal strip on a shingle that has been broken by wind." Let's go ahead and add this note to a photo. You can, of course, just click inside the note and manually type a note. Or you can harness the power of MacroNote and first click inside the note until you see the cursor, and then go back over to MacroNote and double-click the first note called Broken Seal Strip. You can see how the note drops into the photo's description. If you want to add a second, third, or fourth note to the same photo, then you will need to click into the end of the text of the existing note and add a period and then 2 spaces and then click on the second or third or fourth note that you would like to add. Let's demonstrate. Now we will click here at the end, add a period, 2 spaces, and I will click the next note. And then if I wanted to add another note, I could click at the end, add a period, a couple of spaces, and click another note. And then if I chose to, I could type a note. Please be aware, however, that adding too much text to one photo can cause the report to look slightly less professional. If you have several photos of something similar, then perhaps divide a really long note into 2 or 3 notes and post them under similar or even duplicate photos to help maintain the symmetry of the report. And please remember that you can also include hyperlinks to videos or websites or links to other files inside of the MacroNotes. As for the order or the content of the notes, that is up to the individual user. We have provided a fairly good sample of notes that should help people get creative on the creation of their own notes. Our sample notes, as well as all notes, can be deleted or altered, imported, or exported by the user at any time. You can see under this wind category for asphalt shingles, we have a little over 20 sample notes. These range from creased shingles to bent headwall flashing to torn shingles or tree branch damage. We can then close this category and go to consequential damage. This has items ranging from the brittle test to debris damage to a vent to nail penetration damage to the underside of a soffit. Closing this list, we can go into material notes and see notes ranging there from 2 layers of shingles to 6 nails per shingle to starter on the rake edges and several shingle thicknesses. Lastly, we can go into hail and see the damages to head wall flashing or open valleys or skylights, etc. There can be no doubt that many more MacroNotes could have been created on these subjects alone. That is why we made it easy to share them with other PicPal users. We will get to how that's done in just a moment, but first let's discuss how to create a MacroNote. First, let's review the 5 levels of notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need to also review how to add a note to an existing level header, as well as how to make a change to an existing note. Let's hit collapse all and then open to levels roof, asphalt, and then wind, and then choose the first note. After single clicking and highlighting Broken Seal tab, you can see at the bottom right of the screen there is a field titled Enter Note Name, where the title of this note is repeated as Broken Seal Strip. This title text is what shows up in the list and what you click on to add the note to a photo. Below this is a field titled Description. This text is actually the note text that is pasted below the photo and seen by those reading the report. Now let's add a new note. The notes are added directly beneath the level that you click on in the list. So let's go ahead and click on Wind. Now look to the bottom right of the screen and you will see that the text listed for the field Master Macro is Wind. Don't do anything in this screen. Click the tab on the right that is called Add Note. Give the note a name, let's say A Test. And then the description is This is a test. You can see that it will drop at the bottom of the list of notes under the category of the Wind header once I've pressed the Add button below it. Now let's add a new note. The notes are added directly beneath the level that you click on in the list. So let's click on Consequential Damage. Now look to the bottom right of the screen and you will see that the text listed for the Master Macro is Consequential Damage. Click the tab on the right that is called Add Note. Give the note a name, let's say A Test, and then the description is This is a test. You can see that it will drop in at the bottom of the list of notes under the category of Consequential Damage after I have pressed the Add button at the bottom of the dialog. Now let's delete this note. To do that, single click the note and then click the Delete button at the bottom right of the screen. Now let's quickly create all 5 levels from scratch. At the top right of the screen, single click on the header called Roof. Now go to the bottom right of the screen and under the tab called Add Master Macro, enter the name of the new first level header that you want to appear in the list. In this case, I will enter Siding. And then I will click the Add button. You can see how the word siding has now appeared at the bottom of the expandable list and is located on the first tier level. Now let's enter a second level tier. Single click on your new siding level and then enter the name of the level that you want to create underneath the siding level. In this case, let's type in wood and then click add. You can see that a plus sign has now been added to the word siding. Click the plus sign to see the new lower level called wood. Click it. Now go to the bottom and enter masonite into the master macro named field. Now click add. Now you can see that the word masonite is nested under the header called wood and then under the header called siding. Now go to the add note at the bottom of the screen. Enter a note name called debris damage with a description of this impact was caused by wind-driven debris. Go ahead and click the add button and you will see the note is now beneath masonite. If we want to click on a note, we can now double click on debris damage and it will add itself into the note. This is going to make us 4 levels deep with the note on the 5th level. Remember, the headers can be created to 4 levels deep and then a note can be added to the last header to make the expandable list tree a maximum potential total of 5 layers deep. Now of course you can add notes at any level, although it is likely best not to add them to the first tier so that you do not have a big cluttered mess of notes all in one column on the first tier. In fact, I personally do not like mixing the notes and the headers on the same level. As a rule, I try to categorize my notes as deeply nested as I can so that it is as easy as possible to quickly browse through and locate what I'm looking for. Despite my better judgment, let's go ahead and begin with the first tier. Click on Roof, go to the bottom right of the screen, and click the Add Note tab and enter the note name and the note text itself. I will enter Level 1 Test and Level 1 Test Note. Now click the Add button. Now double-click into a photo description and then double-click the note that you just created and you will see it has pasted the note text correctly. Now click on the first level that you had created called siding and let's add a note on the siding level. Single click the word siding and then go to the bottom right of the screen and click the Add Note tab and then I will type in test name as the note name and then test note as the note description. We then click the Add button and double-click into a photo description and then double-click the note that you just added called Test Name and you'll see the word Test Note appear in the photo description. Now let's begin to wrap up this tutorial with the creation of additional horizontal level headers. So for example, if you wanted to create another header on the same level as the header called wood, then you would click the header above wood called siding and then go to the bottom of the screen and under Enter Master Macro Name you will put the new name. I will call it metal. I will then click Add. Now you can see a new header called metal has appeared on the same level with the header called wood and under the level called siding and under the level called roof. The last thing that we need to discuss in this tutorial is importing and exporting. Don't worry, it will be really quick because it's really easy. The first and most important thing that you need to know is that you cannot import partial macros, at least not at this time. It is either export all and import all or nothing. So if you have spent a bunch of time creating MacroNotes, then the first thing that you will want to do, just for the sake of safekeeping, is to export those macros. You do not need to click anywhere inside the tree because, as I said, it's all or nothing. So just click the Export All button at the bottom right of the page. Give your export a name. We'll call it MacroNote Backup 52622, and for now I'll save it to the inside of a folder that I created on my desktop called MacroNote. Now let's open up the folder called MacroNote, and we can see that the MacroNote file is a very lightweight and simple 10 kilobit CSV file that can easily be emailed. You can open the file and see how it's put together. Although for now, let's stick to editing it with the app. So now that you know how to export a macro, let's go back into PicPal and delete our entire macro tree and then re-import it from our backup. I will click on Roof at the top of the expanding tree list, and then at the bottom right of the screen I will click Delete. Now I will click the Import All button, and a dialog box pops up asking if you understand that any and all existing MacroNotes will be irretrievably overwritten. Do you want to continue? Yes. And it opens a window for you to point to the MacroNote file that you would like to import. In this case, it already knew that I'd be in the MacroNote folder on my desktop, so I will double click the file name and it imports. You can now see at the top right of the screen the expanding list of MacroNotes that I had imported a few minutes ago. Well, that is about it for this video. Please be sure to watch all of the PicPal training videos.